Meantime, check out Eli Lilly breaking out to a fresh all-time high today. The drug manufacturer is up 18% in the last month, thanks in part to the success of its obesity drug Mounjaro. Joining us now for more on the stock's big run and what could drive the results even further, as well as Fargo Securities biotech analyst Mohit Bansal. He has got a buy rating and a $440 price target on Lilly. Just upgraded the stock a month ago or so. Mohit, great to have you with us. Can you help us understand what part of the valuation in your model is Mounjaro and what part of it is Alzheimer's and the promise of Alzheimer's?
Thank you for having me. So my model mostly is driven by Mounjaro, and Alzheimer's is a small part of the business in my model. I would say it's probably contributing 10 to 15%, not more than that. It's pretty much driven by Mounjaro at this point.
So basically, later on this year, when Eli Lilly is expected to give a readout of the Alzheimer's results, if that's positive, that could just be upside to the stock that's not factored in at this point.
Right, I would agree with that. I think at least 10% upside when Eli Lilly shows Alzheimer's data in first half of the year, so probably in a couple of months at this point.
Can you help us understand how Mounjaro stacks up right now in your view with Wegovy and some of the others out there in terms of, what is driving it right now? Has it been production issues with some of the other drugs that are now cleared up? And so how is that sort of playing out? I'm just trying to understand what exactly has driven the uptake and what will continue driving the uptake going forward.
So I would say it is pretty much demand driven right now. The demand is such for these products, and it's for right reasons, because Mounjaro, if you look at the weight loss profile, if you look at the diabetes or glycemic control profile of the drug, it is much better than what we have seen with any of the drugs. So just to give numbers here, Mounjaro among obese patients, it showed as high as 22% weight loss, and among diabetes and obese patients, it showed last week it showed about 16% weight loss. That's unheard of. That's not something that other drugs do, and that's why it is the demand is such that even Mounjaro is running into supply issues. Other agent Wegovy has improved its supply, and so did Mounjaro as well, because this quarter call, people were worried about going into the quarter call and worried about that whether supply would whether they can meet the numbers or beat the numbers, and they actually did beat it, which basically tells you that Lilly's supply is improving at this point.
It's Karen. Thanks so much for being on. When they get to full production and that's no longer sort of an obstacle, what do you think the coverage will be? How big of a hurdle is that? What are you expecting from insurers, the government, regarding covering either Mounjaro, tirzepatide in whatever form?
Right. So for now, it would be a while before they get to a position where supply is not an issue, because by the end of the year, they are still looking at doubling the supply. Probably that demand would probably be more than that. But eventually, I think the biggest obstacle is Medicare, especially for obesity, because half of the obesity patients are Medicare, and Medicare doesn't cover it. I think that hurdle would be removed once Novo has a trial which is looking at whether reducing this weight among obese patients results into cardiovascular benefit. That trial is also reading out sometime in the middle of the year, and that if that turns out to be positive, that is going to be one of the important trials which actually removes that obstacle, because then these are not just weight loss drugs. These are the drugs which reduce your weight and actually help you live longer or maybe have a better cardiovascular benefit longer term.
Have you, Mohit, or when do you start thinking about, people take these drugs, they're not obese, they may not develop diabetes, it may, reduce the severity of the diabetes and therefore reduce all these other side effects down the road, and what the impact is on other drugs and other sales of other drugs that can treat some of those things that will now be prevented?
I mean, that would be a dream scenario. I think we are still ways away from that particular scenario playing out. But eventually, I mean, like if you give it to pre-diabetic patients, probably diabetes can be pushed out. Obesity is supposed to be cause of many other diseases down the line, including cancers. So that would be a scenario that could play out. But I think we are probably maybe 10 years or more than that away from that.